Welcome to the Numbers Game. I'm Jason. I'm joined by Nick and Marty. How you going today, fellas? Nice and limbered up, loosened up, sports massage, ready to rock and roll for another episode. Marty?
Well, not me, but Nick Riley's been on the table getting lubed up and getting all these muscles seen to. But I think that's good because he puts a lot of time into his body, a lot of exercise, swimming. So I think you got to do these things. So I myself, I'm just trying to touch my toes at the moment, Jace, and I'm getting there. But I'm happy. Essendon's winning, which hasn't happened, which feels like for about 20 odd years. So some good productivity there in the sports world, which I'm pumped about. Nick, you're looking loose as a goose, mate. Good to see you. Refreshed. How you feeling?
Yeah, no, I feel good. And thanks for mentioning the first sports massage I've had in about 5 years. So I made a pact with myself a couple of years ago to focus on body maintenance because, as you get older, you just can't do the things that you used to do. And, Jace worked that out this weekend just gone. So 2 years ago, I said to myself, I'm going to start getting massages, and I never did anything about it. But I went for one yesterday and it just bloody hurt, basically. I was worried because the lady looked a bit older and I thought, this is going to be a waste of time and money. Spent the first 5 minutes just putting this hot, excruciatingly hot oil on my back. I'm like, where is this going? And then, she reminded me pretty quickly of where it was going with an elbow straight to the middle of the back, and then it didn't stop from there. So anyway, it's amazing the strength that those ladies have. And I get that it's weight and all that stuff, but yeah, geez, it was painful, but I feel good.
Fantastic. What do you do, Jace? Do you do any acupuncture or how do you look after yourself, mate?
I'm going to take a leaf out of Nick's book and book in a sports deep tissue massage after this. Cheeky little dig there from Nick after I woke up this morning, put my shoulder and my neck out. Deep into Gold Coast Marathon training, and then also doing the Push for Better, the push-up challenge where you do like 3,144 push-ups in like 23 days in June. So Tom Boyd, who's been on our podcast before, called me out on LinkedIn and said, join this challenge, help raise money for Lifeline. So I think in the first 8 days of June was like 1,500 push-ups or something like that, or it must be up to today about 1,500 push-ups. So I went from doing no push-ups in the last year and a half to about 1,500 push-ups in 10 days, and then woke up today and my traps are screwed and my neck's out of whack. So Casey did have a word to me and said, did you think that going from doing 0 to 1,500 might be a problem? And of course the answer was no, that's not what happened. It was just something.
I love your mid-30s problems. I went for a walk and all of a sudden, because I had the new hip put in 6 months ago, all of a sudden I was lame for a week. I'm going, what is going on here? This is crazy. And went to the holistic chiropractor, and apparently hip had moved in some weird place and pushed the muscles and tensed them, and all of a sudden I'm right again. So yeah, it's amazing what these people can do, really. So I thought I was like Captain Feathersword trying to get up the steps here at Innovate. But all good. Jace, what have we got on today?
Well, before we dive into it, I will just say that this episode is brought to you by Innovate Sports Massage for all of your sports massage. No, just kidding. This episode's brought to you by Innovate Finance and Wealth for all of your financial advisory needs and your finance needs when it comes to mortgage broking, asset finance, commercial dealings, everything the team do under the one roof at Innovate. So if you need anything in that area, get in touch. We've definitely had plenty of tax planning clients put their hand up and say, get us in with Innovate, because we can hear all the magical things that happens over there through the podcast. So inovayt.com.au, jump on and check it out. So, Marty, I'm glad you asked what is happening on today's episode. It's one that I'm excited about. Nick over the weekend texted you and I and said, boys, what do you reckon of this AFR article? So we've got a reading the play today, and I might just throw straight to Nick to lead into it and explain what caught his eye.
Thanks, Jace. Yeah, and I thought I would bring this up because it's something that I haven't really thought about, but I kept on hearing. So obviously there's a lot of commentary at the moment on inflation, CPI rates, costs of goods and services going up and trying to get them down to get our interest rates down and whatnot. But something that keeps coming up is productivity, the word productivity, or our productivity rates. And what I've found since hearing that, well, I actually found an article on the weekend, and that's why it made me think, oh, I've been hearing about productivity, so I'll have a look. But Australia's productivity rate, so that is it's pretty self-explanatory, but the output for the labour that we're actually performing, I guess. So what do you get out of doing a certain amount of hours of work? Our productivity rate in this country is poor. Our productivity rate has not improved for around 15 years, and has a big influence on our inflation or our CPI. So it's pretty self-explanatory when you think about it. If I go to Marty and I say, Marty, I need this job done. If Marty says to me, well, it's going to take me 8 hours, so it's going to cost you $1,000. Although Marty might say to me, well, it's going to take me 12 hours, so it's going to cost you $1,400. So the better the productivity, the less the cost, because we're getting more back for our labour input or labour output, if that makes sense. So it was really simple to me to go, okay, I never really thought about that. Businesses can't do things as quick, so they're charging more money, which then impacts the costs of services mainly and also goods. So what the article that I sent to you guys went on to explain is, well, why is this? What is causing low productivity? Why are we not producing the output that we should, and why are we not improving our productivity? A couple of things, and I'll just rattle these off high level, and then we'll have a bit of a chat about them. But the first one was machines are replacing labour. So when you look at the output for labour, all of the easy stuff's been handled by machines. So what we're doing with our own labour, generally in services, because that's stuff that you can't send off to a machine. So you can't send your brain work, Jace, although AI might change this, but you can't send your brain work off to a machine to do at the moment. Maybe you can, but it's very limited.
Yep.
So that means the work that's staying with you, or the labour, is becoming more and more valuable, and is costing more.
Yep.
So machines are replacing labour. The other thing was sending stuff offshore in this country. So if we think it's an easy task or a task that can be easily systemised and processed, a lot of the times we're sending that offshore to another country, whether that be the Philippines or Kuala Lumpur or India or wherever it might be. So our easy tasks are actually pushing away from this country, which means we're doing all the mundane and the labour-intensive tasks, which is impacting our productivity rates. Next one was regulation. Now this rings home for me, because regulation has caused huge impacts in our business. The cost of doing business for us has gone up, purely based on meeting the regulators' requirements, which means we have to charge clients more. First thing I think about outside of our business is construction industry. Look at all the safety checks, all the compliance, and it's all for good reason, but where is the balance between actually making a construction deal or a development, for instance, profitable versus ticking boxes? So increased regulation means increased checks, increased safety, increased systems, which means increased costs, which means you can do less in your day because you're ticking off the safety stuff. Next one was lack of competition. So a lot of monopolies being created in this country. So when you've got monopolies, it means businesses can get lazy. They don't have to think about how they can reduce their prices, because there maybe there's only one or two of those businesses. So less competition means prices stay high, and the businesses that are a monopoly have less incentive to invest in their systems and processes and get things moving quicker. Management incentives, so incentives or bonuses or short-term incentives paid to CEOs, executives. There's it's no secret that they get paid a lot of money, and that seems to be going up and up and up. That then adds to the cost base of the business. So the cost of staff in general is going up, but management incentives is a big one. And the last one they mentioned was zombie businesses. So businesses that are really just there, treading water, creating a lifestyle for someone. I talked about compliance and all these things that are making businesses, or I guess business harder to get done. So these zombie businesses don't have any cash flow outside of meeting their debts and maybe funding a lifestyle. So they can't invest in systems, tech, processes to get their productivity levels up. So I thought it was really interesting because I don't think that most people on this podcast, particularly me, would be thinking about productivity levels. How quickly are we actually getting work done? That impacts the price, which impacts inflation or CPI. So, and the biggest issue at the moment with CPI is the services. Goods are coming down. Services, not just here, but in America as well. Services are the ones that's being very hard to shift. And I think it's because of all of these things that are impacting that and making it difficult for businesses to reduce their costs. Like I look at our business and the amount of things that we need to do now to make sure the doors are open. I can't imagine we'd be in a position to reduce our costs anytime soon. And if anything, the next move will probably be up. So I can see that's an issue in our business. I'm sure you can with your business as well, Jace.
No, it's definitely very interesting. And it wasn't until I kind of flipped it on its head to kind of get the flip side understanding to go, a higher productivity rate means that businesses are producing more with the same input. So we're more efficient. We're getting more done with the same amount of resources that we've always had. That leads to higher wages, lower prices for the economy, and then a stronger economy overall. So flipping it that way actually got me to understand that this of course is a good thing. We need increased productivity. We need to be improving, which means that investment in technology, education, infrastructure that you mentioned, a few of those things, then as well as getting rid of regulations that stifle innovation and productivity. And then I just looked up how do we compare to the rest of the world in that over the last, I think 15 years is what the article said, but I just found a stat. Over the last 20 years, we've been stagnant at around 1 to 1.4%, when the average for the other OECD countries is 2.5%. So we're almost half of what other countries are getting ahead when it comes to productivity. Pretty disappointing. Not too sure how we get, there's a few little suggestions of how to go about turning this around, but that's a bit of a surprise and not something that I've really thought about before. But I think reflecting over COVID, and again, this isn't the solution because we don't want people to necessarily have to do more hours, but you think about the COVID times when people were, especially in professional services where, you sat at home in front of a computer getting your job done, you didn't have your hour travel time to or from work. You had nothing else to do because you had nowhere to be on, after work or on weekends. You were locked up. You probably saw an increase in productivity that was a temporary fake increase during that time. Now we're on the other side of that, and I think we've almost seen a decrease in productivity because people are distracted, travel times back, people are, holidays and everything else. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird time, and definitely need to have some actual thought and input into how to turn this around so that we can become a country that has great productivity. What are your thoughts, Marty?
I was just thinking in regards to the productivity in regards to people and also process, because we were at the Australian Manufacturers Expo, and what amazed me about that was some of the machinery to do metal fabrication. Like this machine could be on 24/7. It could produce any template and design any template that you wanted, basically. And it just ran effectively 24/7 and produced. And I go, that's an efficiency. But when you turn that to labor, so what you're saying there is then someone that's selling that product, there's a higher potential payment and lack of productivity from the point of view of usually people would be manufacturing these products and craftsmen, and you'd be looking at efficiencies within people. But it sounds like, has it gone to machinery? Is that the same as offshore? Like, how is this calculated? Is it purely a labor cost? Because overall efficiency might be better. Do you see what I'm getting at with using technology?
Yeah, but I think it's and look, you're right. Technology is definitely increasing productivity. The issue that this country has is we don't do much manufacturing, and this is what they're talking about. If you look at our country, it's very heavy in services and trades, not so much manufacturing. So where you can really improve those productivity levels, our country doesn't really play in that field compared to it does, but if you compare us to China or wherever it might be, but China's the obvious one that comes to hand. That's where you can really increase your productivity through things like what you're just talking about, machinery and whatnot. There's only so much you can do from a services point of view, and only so much you can do from a trade point of view. So the issue then is, well, how do we get that productivity down when we don't have the benefits of a big chunk of our revenue or of our output being manufacturing, where you can make you can gain easy wins through things like machines. So
Jace, do we need another pandemic, or have we got other ideas here? How do we get, because people weren't going on holidays, and we certainly noticed productivity go up in that time, just on human capacity and not being in traffic and various different things. But what are some better options that you might think of that you can bring to the table here?
Oh, look, I definitely think, and look, when we see it with a lot of business owners that we work with, there's a lack of the speed to implement new technology. So technology is something that's meant to, push better productivity. We should be more productive with the technology we have at hand these days. If there's too many businesses out there that aren't operating using new technology, new equipment, new procedures, there brings down your productivity already. The other one as well is education. The more high trained and highly skilled workforce that we've got, the more productivity that we have. So I think they're two of the big areas that I see, from the position that I sit in working with a lot of business owners, is sometimes a bit of a fear of investing in the team. Like if I invest in training and then I lose my team member, I've gone and wasted all that money training my team. But again, it's always that flip side. Like what if you don't train them and they stay? You've got a team that may not be as productive as they would have been if you'd invested in the training. Same goes for technology. If you shell out and invest in getting that technology up and running to improve systems and processes, you should be able to do, have more productivity and more output. So they're definitely two of the big ways that I can see business owners being able to go about trying to improve in those their productivity.
Yeah, it's a good point. And first thing that comes to my mind is just some sort of ATO incentive to invest in your business outside of as a traditional expense. Like you look at R&D grants, look, they're great, but they're only great if you're doing something that's that doesn't exist. So our business, we're very labour intensive. Whether you're looking at the financial planning or the mortgage business, there's a lot of people involved to get a file from A to B and then further to Z. So there's investments that we would love to make tomorrow that we know will improve our productivity. We're talking about this at the moment, but we're slowly getting those investments made as cash flow allows us to. Now I know for a fact that if I had a big cash injection, we could go and make those investments straight away on tech, and our productivity levels would go up. So what incentive is there for a business like mine, or any SME to actually invest in tech or whatever it might be to increase their productivity? You can probably tell me, Jason, if I'm wrong, but I don't think there is any.
There's not much. One of the things that they did do during COVID, and I'm pretty sure it's not yet legislated, which is coming up to a bit of a problem given it's 27 days till the end of the financial year, is meant to be giving you an extra 20% tax deduction for anything you spent on training and technology, like subscriptions for tech and bits and pieces. So, hypothetical, Nick, if you said, yep, cool, if the government was going to help me out, I would have spent $100,000 on additional training and technology implementation. The government, what they were going to do, and pending legislation, I think it's on the cards to go through, is they're going to give you an extra 20% tax deduction. So you'd actually get to claim an extra $20,000 off your taxable profit in the company. So you get an extra $20,000 tax deduction, even though you didn't spend that money. What does that save you at the end of the day at the company tax rate of 25%? Saves you $5,000. So it's something, but again, is it gonna push you to go out and spend $100,000 to save an extra $5,000 on your tax bill at the end of the year? Probably not.
Give me an interest-free loan for 5 years, because then I can guarantee you with the enhancements we make through increased productivity, no issues. It's just getting that initial cash injection, because we all know that when you're trying to implement tech or even build tech into your business, it's exorbitantly expensive. And there's a lot of businesses like ours that just look at that cost and go, we can't go near that because we just don't have the revenues to do that. So then you're reliant on other businesses that would then sell you the tech. The other issue that we've got in our business is we're we're reliant on third-party providers. So whether that be insurance companies, whether that be mortgage providers, we have to work in with their systems. And the reality is a lot of insurance providers are not making great money at the moment, so they're not reinvesting into their tech and their systems and process. So we're kind of stuck. So we are stuck with what they have. So again, maybe the government can get involved there and look at our industry, and I'm talking about in our industry because I know it, and say, well, right, what are the issues here stopping productivity? Okay, well, the insurers are not investing in tech. Why aren't they? Is there something we can do about that to increase productivity? Because we have to find a way to increase productivity on trades and services. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And then that has flow-on effects with CPI. Trades, I know that trades, and I think trades are getting better at this. And I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I think as younger people are coming into trades that are more tech savvy, they're seeing ways that they can introduce tech to make their businesses more efficient, whether that be platforms that help you quote jobs, schedule jobs, whatnot. You're probably seeing this more than I am, Jace, but I've seen a couple of businesses now that actually provide an end-to-end solution for trades that help them quote, schedule jobs, send information back to the clients about jobs, compliance checks and whatnot. So
it's that example of technology being implemented and the cost prohibitive to do that, or the perceived cost to train somebody how to use it and to implement it. It's an education piece, I guess, looking at these stats in Australia of like there should be more done by the government to advertise or promote the fact that, technology and training is important and can make the country more productive. One of the other ones that popped up in there, Nick, while I was reading through as well, was talking about an aging workforce. So that's what's also contributing to a decrease in productivity. No offense, Marty. But what the stats here are saying is that, as our workforce is aging and moving towards retirement age, we're getting less productivity out of people who are, working towards, wrapping up, so in that kind of baby boom generation of people in there pushing their 60s and 70s starting to retire, the other side of that, we've also got fertility rates are declining. Less people are having kids, and then the people who are having kids are having less kids than what they were having. And we've also got an increasing life expectancy. So what the other side of that, what you're seeing is a smaller workforce that has more demand to look after the economy and look after the country. There's going to be more need for healthcare and aged services and a change in consumer demand because retirees aren't necessarily going out buying new clothes and going to bars and whatever. They're traveling and looking at recreation and less worried about, doing up their houses potentially. They're downsizing. So this aging population is another thing that's going to, also comes into one of our future eps talking about exciting tax things.
Great news for our older listeners too. So take that on board.
You're close to retirement, Marty.
We're happy to bring lunch into everyone, and if you wipe our noses when we've got a cold.
Well, I actually didn't realise the numbers, but at the moment, 2023, 16% of the population's over 65. That increases to 20% of the population in 2023 will be over 65. Then by 2043, 25% of Australia's population is over 65. So 1 in 4 people are over 65 years old in 2043. And then it pushes to 1 in 3 almost by 2053. If the numbers keep going the way they're going, 1 in 3 people will be over 65. So think about the workforce in 2050. If you're about to get into business and you've got a 25-year plan to run a business, you got to think that 1 in 3 people that are available to work in your business are going to be 65 years or older.
Well, you bring out a few red flags for me, mate, so I better just cut you off there. But the really interesting thing is, like I said, I've worked through various different generations back to the 1920s, as you know. But it's we talk about tech and we talk about that transition to tech and educating people how to utilise tech. It is a big transition, but then you got to look at the productivity cost of management coming in and going, because that's going to be a 100 to 150 grand investment on the human side in regards to management, right? Every time. So you expand that and you scale that out, imagine that overall cost in time as businesses get bigger and bigger. So if you are tracking through technology and we're transitioning to embrace technology, you go, well, you have to reimagine business to a certain degree here. And I think that's the challenge sometimes, is to go, well, we don't even know what that looks like yet because we're still in the midst of making that transition across. But I think in 10 years' time, business will look very different, even in the hierarchy of what management looks like. And people will probably be tech gurus at that point, and people will be, responding back to tech data in regards to leads and sales, and even training will be all done through that. And I think that's it's interesting for me seeing that from very much being a humanistic thing to now moving into a technology thing. But I think that's the only way we can increase productivity to a point where businesses can continue to maintain margin and scale effectively once we get it right. A lot to do probably in the next 3 to 5 years, but that's the reality of the environment we're going into. And I no doubt it would be the same as people, transitioning into the industrial age and then, into commerce age and services, and now into this tech age. So yeah, it's a really interesting time, and you got to embrace it, like you say, otherwise you do get left behind. So it makes some good points, but even this discussion has got me rethinking of, geez, I think business is going to look really different in the next 5 to 10 years.
And we didn't even mention AI pretty much the whole episode, and that's that buzzword that's out there at the moment too. So I think the lesson we can learn from this, Nick, and love that you've brought this to the table and brought this to the listeners' ears, is that, what can we control when it comes to boosting productivity? And if we're going to have to look at doing it ourselves as business owners or as people working out there, what are we doing to contribute to increase productivity? And if that means going into work and suggesting new tech, innovation, some education so we can do things better, let's take it upon ourselves, because we all know that if we wait for the government to act and do these things, we're going to be waiting a long time. So love it.
Correct.
Yeah. The importance of people upskilling too. So don't be passive in regards to bringing on capability to yourself. I think don't just let that be an employer responsibility. Really make yourself of value that you can't be ignored. Just skill up in all these areas. Makes total sense.
Well, thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, tell a friend to listen. Nick, Marty, and I love it when people reach out and connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all these different kind of socials. Actually had a tag from a lovely listener who was listening to us while cleaning their gym on the weekend. So, really appreciate that kind of activity too. So thank you for listening, and until next time.
Don't be afraid to send me a fax. Game over.